Setting boundaries is like creating a safety net for your well-being. But what happens when your boundaries are like a flimsy umbrella in a storm? Stick around to discover the top signs that your boundaries need a serious makeover. Number 9. Like Beyoncé, you're on mute. Have you ever felt like you're not in charge of what's happening around you? It can be pretty tough when things seem to be happening around you without you having much say. And when that happens, it might be hard to figure out how to make things better. Sometimes the people around you might not be thinking about what you need, or you might not feel very sure of yourself when it comes to speaking up. You might even find that you're always more concerned about what your partner wants, and you kind of forget about what's good for you. It's like you've fallen into a habit of letting others decide things for you, and it's starting to feel like that's just how life should be. But guess what? You've got the power to change this. You can take control and make things better for yourself. It's all about setting boundaries and ensuring your voice is heard. That's when things can start looking up. Number 8. You're anxious and display passive communication. Do you sometimes catch yourself spilling the beans on things you maybe shouldn't be sharing? Maybe you start talking about your money stuff, or you share details of other people's business that isn't really your place to spill. Or perhaps you find yourself chatting about what went down last night, and it's just a little too much information. If this sounds familiar, it could signify that your boundaries need some fine-tuning, especially if you tell all this to folks who don't need to be in the know. See, when you're not used to setting limits, figuring out what's cool to talk about and what's better left unsaid can be tricky. Number 7. Feeling guilty. Ever get that nagging feeling of guilt, even over the tiniest things? If you feel bad about turning down a friend who asks for your help, that might be telling you something about your boundaries. You may be letting people take advantage of your kindness, or perhaps saying no is just not your strong suit. But don't worry, you're not alone in this. It's all about finding that sweet spot where you can set boundaries and be totally cool with your choices. Number 6. You are not in charge of your decisions. Weak boundaries often reveal themselves when you're letting others call the shots on how you spend your time. When it's tough to say no because you don't want to disappoint people, you may find yourself making too many commitments and taking on way too much. The thing is, this can seriously affect your well-being. See, if you keep putting others ahead of yourself all the time, it can eventually hurt both you and the folks around you. So finding the balance is key. Before we continue, don't forget to hit that subscribe button so you won't miss out on our upcoming videos. We'll be shedding light on vital signs to watch for and strategies to handle toxic dynamics. Stay tuned and empower yourself with knowledge for healthier connections. Back to it. Number 5. It's hard for you to make decisions. Struggling to make decisions often goes hand in hand with weak boundaries. It's like your own plans can get easily swayed by what others think and say. Sometimes you might feel stuck because there are too many options. But here's the deal. Gaining the confidence to stand up for yourself is essential. You won't be as bothered by what others say when you reach that point. You'll feel good about yourself, regardless of anyone else's opinions. Number 4. Rejection from others is a concern for you. Setting boundaries with others can sometimes be challenging, especially if you're concerned about how they react. You might find yourself holding back from saying something negative because you care about their feelings, or fear they'll distance themselves if they think you're not on their side. There's also the worry that others might judge you if you set boundaries. But here's an important thing to remember. You're not responsible for their feelings. You don't have to explain every little thing. If something doesn't feel right to you, it's perfectly okay to say no. Number 3. Constantly justifying and apologizing. Do you sometimes find yourself avoiding conversations with people when they've done something wrong? Maybe you come up with excuses in your head, like thinking they didn't mean to hurt you or they were just joking. If this sounds familiar, it could indicate that you struggle with setting boundaries and often prioritize their needs over yours. When our boundaries are not strong, we might downplay or dismiss the hurtful actions of others, even when we know we should take action. It's time to stop rationalizing other people's hurtful behavior. Number 2. Passive-aggressive behaviors are present. Sometimes when your boundaries are unhealthy, You might become passive-aggressive. This means you hold back your negative feelings to avoid arguments to try to get back at people secretly without explaining why. But this way doesn't really fix the actual problem. It's like pretending the main issue doesn't exist, and it can leave others puzzled and upset because they don't understand what's happening. Communicating openly and dealing with problems directly rather than resorting to passive-aggressive behavior is better. Number 1. The relationships become super difficult and/or dramatic. Your relationships might have boundary problems if they involve many arguments, emotional ups and downs, dependence, or even mistreatment. It's logical when you consider it. If you avoid facing problems and let others keep crossing your boundaries, they'll continue doing it. Moreover, if they realize they can push your limits a bit without any consequences, they might go further and even do worse things. When you don't understand your boundaries or how to express them, it becomes simpler for others to exploit you or mistreat you. The good news is this is something that can definitely get better with effort. Please like and share this video if you find it entertaining, as this will encourage us to make more content like it. If you enjoyed this video and want to see more like it, subscribe and turn on notifications. We appreciate you taking the time to watch.